Welcome to, or welcome back to, the Agatha May Detective Agency. I'm Agatha May, and in this video, I'm gonna rant. That sounds like fun, huh? I promise I won't be yelling, but I do want to talk about some things I've noticed lately, and I might possibly speak sternly and use my mom voice. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, Occam's razor is defined as a scientific and philosophical rule that entities should not be multiplied unnecessarily, which is interpreted as requiring that the simplest of competing theories be preferred to the more complex, or that explanations of unknown phenomena be sought first in terms of known quantities. In simpler terms, when faced with multiple explanations for something, the simplest is usually the best. As an example, if you hear the patter of paws in your house, and you have a dog or a cat, it's more likely to be one of them rather than a wild animal, or a ghost, or the ghost of a wild animal. Now, if you hear the patter of paws and you don't have a dog or a cat, you're on your own. This isn't to say that Occam's razor is always the solution, but it's always a good place to start. It seems that since the death of Johnnie Jacobs, the fisherman who found Mica Francis's belongings the day she died, the rumors and conspiracies have started flying again. There are thoughts that Johnnie's death might have been a hit, as in the other driver was a hitman. I think the idea is that Johnnie knew something about Mica's death and had to be taken out. Well, let's look at that. If we use Occam's razor, the simplest explanation is that another driver ran a stop sign and hit Johnnie's truck. Johnnie wasn't wearing a seatbelt and was ejected from his vehicle. If he had been wearing his seatbelt, he might still be alive. In order for the other driver to have been a hitman, we have to throw in a lot of extraneous information, such as the other driver would have to be the world's most masochistic hitman. Some have mentioned that maybe the other driver had a death wish. There isn't a guarantee the so-called hitman would have died, and guess what? He didn't. Instead, he's alive and in the hospital and probably not in very good condition. So now he has hospital bills, he's facing criminal charges, he's missing work, he might have his license suspended, he's more than likely going to be sued, his wife probably had to travel to be with him in the hospital, so she's missing work, plus she has travel expenses, he's going to have attorney's fees, he might have months and months of rehab, and the list goes on. Then we'd have to add that the driver knew exactly where Johnnie was and was able to run the stop sign at exactly the right time. He'd also have to know that Johnnie was positively going to die. Does this really seem like a better explanation than it was just a tragic accident at an intersection that is known for accidents? Plus, if someone wanted to get rid of Johnnie because of information he had, they probably would have done it long before now. While we're talking about rumors, there is the rumor that John Paul Miller has death surrounding him. But does he really? I think some people believe that John Paul Miller is a serial killer, and honestly, I don't think he has the stomach to be one. This is the guy that talks about how much he throws up all the time. That would be a lot of DNA to leave at a crime scene. So let's talk about some of these deaths that are supposedly connected to the Miller family. Dee Dee Collins, who was found on the Highway 17 property that JP owns, or rather one of his many churches, was not connected to the Millers. I read the multiple notes she left for her family. I can assure you that her death had nothing to do with the Millers, so she doesn't need to keep being mentioned. Logan Hardy, John Paul Miller's oldest son, was raised by his stepfather, Chad Richardson. Chad died of a heart attack. Then there's Gregory and Cynthia Gobble. There was a tip called into the North Carolina Sheriff's Department by a woman saying that she saw Gregory Gobble at Solid Rock in Myrtle Beach the night before he and his wife died. The police went and checked it out, but there was no one there. That means there is zero proof that Gregory Gobble was there. I have yet to see any connection between the Gobbles and the Millers. Chris Skinner is definitely the one death that I think needs to be investigated. Why? Because there was an alleged affair between Susie, Chris's wife, and J.P. Miller prior to Chris's death. In her filing for emergency child custody, John Paul's ex-wife Allison talked about John Paul and Susie having an affair in 2021, and we now have Susie admitting in court that she's JP's girlfriend. I don't think it's any stretch of the imagination to think that she and John Paul have possibly been in a relationship for years. So, in reality, Mica's death and the death of John Paul's girlfriend's late husband are the only two that are closely connected to John Paul. Let's keep talking about those. Let's not be distracted by supposition and conspiracy theories. If I find any proof that the Gobble's death is connected to John Paul in any way, you can bet your boots I'll post about it. Until then, I'm going to continue to do my best to only post the truth and information that can be backed up by evidence, or at the very least by common sense. I will still speculate, and in fact, I have a video coming out soon where I speculate all over the place about the 911 call from the day that Mica died. But I try to base my speculation in the realm of probability, not just possibility. The second thing I want to talk about is the saying, "A candle loses nothing by lighting another candle." In relation to being a content creator, this means that if I post information and give credit to the original poster of that information or the person who found it, it doesn't take anything away from me. I have followers that the original creator might not have, so I'm simply spreading the information to more people. It cost me nothing to credit them for their work. I haven't even been in the content creator game for a year yet, but I've noticed that some creators don't want to give credit where credit is due, and I don't understand why not. If we look at other disciplines, we see that credit is always given. If you read a scientific paper, citations and references will be listed. Not only does this give credit to the original source, it also protects the author of the paper from being accused of plagiarism. Even in high school, we were all taught that when writing a paper, we have to cite our references. That's what the bibliography is for. Not only is the bibliography a crucial component of a paper, it's also a super fun word to say. Bibliography. So, as content creators, giving credit to someone else's work is important. It's a nice thing to do, but it also provides transparency and honesty to our own work. I would hope that anyone who is producing true crime content is doing so to bring awareness to a case. In cases that have been solved, that awareness is simply informational. But in unsolved cases, that awareness is to hopefully help bring justice to the victim. And if that's the end goal, giving credit to other creators doesn't do anything other than build a community of trust and support. And I think all victims of crime deserve that. Thank you so much for watching and for indulging me during my little rant. Please like, comment, and subscribe as this helps my channel grow. Until next time, stay safe and be happy.